Good morning, traders. This is Pierre Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is 9:10 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, September 1st. So as we look at the news today, we're going to have ISM at 10 o'clock. That is a Red Star event. And then we have a speech from Governor L'Oreal Bernard at 1 o'clock at the Brookings Institute. She's going to be talking again, same topic that was discussed yesterday in a Fed meeting or a Fed, speech, monetary policy framework review. So they're really going over this new framework that they're developing, and they announced last week. So keep that in mind that that's going on. So after 10 o'clock, we should be clear as far as scheduled news-wise until 1 o'clock. And then this is just a Blue Star event. Most of the topics were went over last week by Powell, and then again yesterday. So I'm not expecting, too much volatility out of this, but just be aware it's there. It is a Blue Star event, meaning it does have the potential to be explosive if there is new and unknown information that comes to the market. So looking back at yesterday's action real quick, again, the Russell and the Dow extremely weak as far as overnight, which is the lower grids. These are overnight value areas that are developed right before the bell rings from when the session opens, and above is the daily value area from the bell to bell action the day before. So you can see most of the action at the lower end of value and below for the Russell and the Dow, and all below the entire session from the overnight. So very weak. Looking at the NASDAQ, right, it was really didn't get anything below the overnight action, and then churned above it, and just closed at the top end, but it did develop some volume and some action up above that area yesterday in the afternoon. And if we look at the daily, right, nothing really inside it. It traded its point of control and responded up, traded back down to the previous day's high, which was Friday's high, responded back up, and really held the overnight high into the close. So if we look at the ES, it was in the middle of the road, right? It was mainly below the overnight action, right? A little bit of action inside, but it couldn't stay in and hold. It ended up closing lower as well. And if we look at the day-to-day, nothing really doing as far as value area high was so close to the previous day's high, and just a blip up above at the end of the day, and then a ramp back down. So as we look at the overnight action so far, 32 points, and if we look at where we've come from, basically this view is from August 13th on. As we come up and we look, we can see, just that no pullbacks, right? We haven't had a pullback. We've never really come back down and tested basically 3,400. I've got it right around 33.95, let's call it, that I would like to see a retest on, but we'll probably stop somewhere short of that at this point in time. That'd be a huge pullback, getting back to basically 34.45, 34.50. You could look at it, 48, but this high basically going back from August 25th would be a nice place that would interest me, maybe to go in with a little bit bigger size, with a small risk to the downside, and looking for a response at that point in time. I wouldn't give it too much wiggle room, and it's one of those that I would maybe actually, if you don't want to go in with bigger size there. And when I say bigger size, if your normal risk is, let's call it R, you shouldn't really be doing more than 2.25 to 2.5 R. Don't go like 10 R or something like that when I say a little bit bigger. But if you're a disciplined trader and you usually risk 1 R, maybe when we get down to here, take 2 to 2.25 R, no more than 3, and then you're going to have a tight leash, and you really are going to give it some wiggle room, because you're going to let it go down to 34.30 basically would be where that would be. So that'd be almost 15-20 points that you're going to give it, but you're looking for another 100 up basically from that point on. So as we look at the level 4s for the day, 34.53 half, to 35.44 half would be the extreme edges. I don't think we're going to trade an extreme edge today. We are, after rotating, down. We had that sell-off into the close yesterday, right? Late day party that really started at 345 after, failing to hold up at these highs. Come back in, rotated it back up above the previous day's high, yesterday's high, and value area high. And now, starting at in the last 30 minutes, right, we've went all the way back down through value. So we have some traders trapped all over the place, really. So I think what we can do is be a little bit patient this morning, look to see which way the wind's blowing. Don't be eager to jump in a trade right when the opening bell rings. Just because the market's open doesn't mean you have to participate. If you don't have an edge, just sit on your hands. Wait till the market tips its hand. We have very small value areas today, and I think it'll be a little bit easier to read. So we've had weakness in the Dow and the Russell, as we mentioned. We are at the lower end of value currently, but value for today is very small. We're looking at basically 97 half up to 07 quarter, so a 10-point range. So basically, I'd rather look for above or below, and then you've got the NASDAQ, which is holding firmly above the previous day's high. If the NASDAQ starts joining into the downside, we'll get more conviction to the downside of these other ones. But right now, all they're doing is the weakness in the Dow and the Russell is just used to gain money to fuel the mad chase for what is all the NASDAQ overvalued stocks, right? Even the ones that weren't overvalued before are becoming overvalued now. And this can go on for a long period of time. I'm not talking days, I'm talking months or even, up to a year and a half. So don't think the party's not going to end until there's no new money that can come in. And right now we are running a little bit out of money because you can see them siphoning from other places. But it's that FOMO, and I still think there's a lot to go to the upside. We are in the parabolic move of this bull market that started in March of 2009. So this parabolic move that we're starting now can go on for maybe to the election, or maybe even a year or a little bit more after that. After that, it's going to be very difficult to maintain, and we're likely to be under the prices we're currently trading at for most everything. And a lot of those stocks that are extremely overvalued, like Tesla had it split yesterday. Tesla at the most is worth $70. Is trading 350 to 400. So there's going to be a lot of people that hodl that really lose a lot, especially if they're leveraged as that thing crashes. So us as day traders, we can watch, we can enjoy the ride up if you want to take that roller coaster ride, but that you're going to hit that top of the hill eventually, and it's going to be a steep drop when it does fall. So as we look at these indexes of really what I'm looking for today, I haven't really reviewed much on the longer term chart. So we're going to look at some of these longer term profiles a little bit. I'm going to give you some levels that I went through and marked them up today. Since we broke up out above basically 3,400, I hadn't added anything to it. I want to give it some time to shake up. But you can see how few days in trading between basically 33.95 up to 34.83, there's not a lot of time, energy, or volume that was spent in this action up here. So these are just stairs coming up, and I could have dotted these out. Maybe I'll go back and change them, but this would be a lot more firm. I'm going to actually solid this one out so you get the point that I'm trying to make. There was a lot of consolidation here before we went up. We haven't tested back this level, so as we come back to it in the future, which we will come back to this in the future, mark my words, we'll just have to see when it is. People are going to, that were trapped up in this area, especially if we end up going higher first, are going to think, the world is ending as we come in here. All the bears will be talking on TV. I told you we're crashing. And to be honest with you, we're just going back to where we were a few weeks ago, so it's no big deal. But this area should trade again between this 34.23 and 34.95. This would be where I'd like to participate, and I would probably do almost 2.5 R at this point in time when this trades. I think this will be good. If we go below this and come back above, as soon as we were back above it, I would go in as well in the future. So keep that in mind. Let's move on to the NASDAQ. Oh, let me read off these levels in case you're having a hard time with the screen. I've got 33.95, 34.23, 34.47 half, 34.83, 34.95, 35.0675, and 35.13 is really what I'm looking at. Looking at the NASDAQ, so basically this area, and I should add it, we'll leave it right around in here. I would like to see the NASDAQ get back somewhere, and this is one of those that I would take it when it comes over. I would let it come back to this area of the chart, and then I would be more of a participant on some fib sequences after it dips into this area and breaks back above it. So that's going to be down at 11,270, and this will trade in the future, I promise you. So just keep this in mind. This would be more of a swing trade position if and when, not if, but when this trades in the future, and we'll have to see how long it is. But you can see this high volume node coming out here. It might be a long time before we come back to here for the NASDAQ. This is the market that everyone is chasing. So below 11,987, you start getting into a little bit more of a dicey area. You're going to turn into where you've got some overhead supply if and when that holds. So that's going to be more of a critical line. Below that, we're going to come back down and we're going to test 11,727, and we'll see how we react in there. We could, as bullish as the NASDAQ is, we could stop at 11,784 basically. Before that, we could just barely wipe out these traders' stops and then resume back up. But the levels that I'm watching on here are 11,727, 11,523, 11,987, and 12,091 is the levels I'm really watching at this point in time for it. Let's move on to the Russell. And now we're getting into the weakest market, right? This is the weakest link. We have failed to really get back above this 1582.30. My levels really haven't changed on this too much from the last time you looked at them with me, so I'll just read them off. What I would really like to see is this 15-14-90 trade in the future. I think this is what needs to happen. I've been saying this for a long time. As long as we've been up here, I don't know if we're going to get a flush back down to this area. So I added a couple levels right above that. 15-25-80, 15-34-30. So basically my dream scenario would be to touch this orange box and start responding back up. You can see how thin the profile is down here at this end, and this is really the split between these two distributions as I see it. And that's 15-14-90. We might not get all the way down into this. You can see there was, only trading that took place on here on August 5th recently, and nothing since or before. So we might only be able to get down to this area of 15-25-80 to 15-34-30. And you need to look at these longer term numbers and levels. So when you see them in the future, you want to take them, right? You don't get caught up in the drop and think that we're going to, blow down to the bottom of the earth, right? We're not going to drill down to China from the United States. So as we look at this, we want to know where those levels are when we see them, so we want to participate back to the upside. And sometimes when these bigger levels trade, they won't be V reversals, right? What you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with churn and burn at the end of a session, trapping traders in, and then when the next session starts or at the end of that session, that's when you'll get your rotation. So I'll be watching and marking it off in the room with you when it does happen. So as we look at the Dow, and I've added some levels on here as well. So 28,150 I've had on the chart. above there, I've got 28,385, and then I've got some this is almost like a band. So 28,595 and 28,678 are areas before this high that's recent, right? We still haven't hit the all-time highs. And then we've got that band up at 29,014 to 29,071 that I'm watching. So again, what I'd like to see is I would like to see a retest probably back down to 28,041, but 28,150, you can see how big this node is. That's something that I would just watch, and after it trades, if that's where it bottoms, I would take the next sequence back up. I wouldn't be a buyer of this node because we had such it's such an eye level, right? You want to see all the lows from before we rallied get taken out, and it would be better to buy near 27,921. That's going to be, that's going to be where everyone stops really get hit that actually have them on the servers from August 24th on. So as we look back at the really what's going on, and bear with me a second here, I got to start something up. All right, sorry about that. So as we look back at what's going on here and really the overnight action, watch these value areas and don't be surprised if the NASDAQ just takes a consolidation day sideways, maybe even gets back inside of value and kind of flags, and you get a little bit more of a buy out of the Russell and the Dow today, with the ES, kind of in between, right in the middle of the road, or as you could think of it as a peacekeeper, right? It's playing both sides of the fence here, so it kind of runs between what's going on with the Russell, the Dow, and the Nasdaq. So as we look at it, right, we're gonna that's really what I'm looking for. I think the range realistically today for the ES is between like 90 to 92.50 on the low end and 23 to 30 on the top end. I think that's what we'll be range bound today. Watch ISM at 10. I wish you guys good luck. Join me in the Discord room. I'll be filling in for Jack this week, and we'll be going over all the profile stuff and answering any questions you have with profile, and I'll show you what I'm looking at today. I'll send out the overnight value areas here in just a few minutes to those in the room. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you